Welcome to the Focus and Chill podcast, where we discuss productivity tactics that work for neurodivergent individuals.
Every episode, we interview guests with lived experience of neurodiversity who also have a solid productivity and habit game, and pass the learnings on to you, our wise and benevolent audience.
We're your hosts, Jeremy and Joey.
I'm Joey, and I coach creatives to get moving on their most ambitious projects through the power of solid habits and strong focus. I'm also a perpetual student of psychology and perpetually on a quest to a one-armed chin-up.
And I'm Jeremy, a neurospicy software developer turned startup founder, building the Focus Bear app to help people with ADHD and autism thrive at work. My cool party trick is leaving parties early so I can get to sleep in time for my 2-hour-long morning routine. The Focus and Chill podcast is brought to you by Focus Bear, a focus enhancement app for ADHDers. That's adults with both combined autism and ADHD. I'm Jeremy, I'm an ADHDer myself. I'm the founder of Focus Bear and also one of the hosts of this podcast. I built Focus Bear for myself originally because I was constantly getting distracted by my phone and my laptop. I wanted a way to tame my ADHD monkey mind so I'd stop going down rabbit holes and actually get work done, but also get off my computer and my phone in the evening so I'd be able to sleep properly. It's working perfectly for me and it's helping a lot of ADHDs as well. I'd love for you to try it. It's available for Mac, Windows, iOS and Android, and it leverages most of the productivity strategies we talk about on the podcast. You can jump onto focusbear.io or just Google Focus Bear and try it out. Let me know what you think. Welcome to episode number 84 of the Focus and Chill podcast. We're thrilled to be joined by Annelil Desille today. Annelil is an ADHD registered clinical psychologist. Annelil uses their personal experience along with evidence-based practice to work with neurodivergent individuals. Her special interests include neurodivergence, mind-body connection, sexual health, dating, intimacy, attachment, and spirituality. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you to have me. I'm very excited.
Yeah. So we're keen to hear about your journey in terms of finding out about your own neurodivergence. When did you find out?
I feel like we always get a sense or an idea of being neurodivergent well before identification. I was identified as an ADHD at first, and that was in about 2018. I actually was participating in a binge eating trial study, and there was a pediatrician that was on board, and they were like, have you noticed anything? I'm like, yeah, I'm not eating as much. And they're like, yeah, but more like your personality. I'm like, oh yeah, I can actually do my work at uni. It's wild. And he was pretty chill about it. And he's like, have you considered ADHD? I'm like, well, my mom always said that I have traits, but I don't know because mom's a psychologist. And he asked if I wanted a formal assessment, did it. And I was actually diagnosed with ADHD. And then a few years later, a very lovely autistic colleague pointed out that my resonance with a client was not just because they're ADHD, but because they're autistic. That was like a mind blow. No, I'm not. Denial mode moment. And then a very soul crushing, oh my gosh, no, I absolutely am. That's like the final piece that makes so much sense. I've been officially diagnosed as autistic and ADHD with the more formal, proper variation, I guess, in 2021. And that was just post, I guess, COVID things. So yeah, that's the identification process for me.
What were some of the things that you noticed that you resonated with in the client?
Well, they were having a lot of social difficulties, which is like the core thing of being autistic. It's not like a dominant ADHD thing. She was always copying movies and quoting movies. I'm like, I do that. I really resonate with this adorable kiddo. She was a lover of language. I'm a big poetry writer, so we both got along quite a lot because of that. We also did some acting together as part of our sessions. That was the key component that I resonated with.
And in terms of some of the challenges you touched on, difficulty at uni, what sort of things came up? Were there a lot of all-nighters or certain subjects that you didn't like?
Yeah, stats I hated. And you have to do 6 whole years of it if you're doing a psych degree. So it was a bit of a gun to head kind of moment in a light joking fashion. It was also all-nighters, lots of procrastinating, significantly lower marks in math-based, stats-based subjects or subjects that I wasn't interested in, and the ones that I really liked, like abnormal psychology, cognitive psych, I was getting really high marks by comparison. That was a few things, but it's the task initiation. I cannot get started on task, and that still to this day is one of the harder challenges, I think.
I had one stats lecturer who was really good and I did well that time, but the rest of the stats units I didn't like very much. So
Yeah.
I feel you.
I think teachers make it really, truly. You need to have a good teacher, otherwise you're just not going to be engaged.
This guy used puppets to explain statistical concepts.
That's actually really cool.
When I was doing my psych degree as well, it was very much like we had some really good stats lecturers, but even with them, a lot of people hated it. Same with the cognitive psychology, like perception and stuff like that. Everyone hated that as well. But yeah, it really depends on the lecturers, doesn't it?
100%. And if they can teach it well, like I've had a good stats teacher and I was interested because he started talking about how politicians are into kink. And I was like, oh, this is so fascinating. How is this related to stats? I don't know, but I was immersed.
And after the identification process, what sort of changes happened for you?
I was medicated for one. Being medicated has been completely life-changing. I went from 60s and 70s to 90s with my marks. I was like, oh, school is not meant to be this hard. That makes so much sense now. Okay, it's my brain. I need to work with my brain. I think a lot of self-compassion for a lot of the difficulties that I've had, both on a social front, but also with general day-to-day living tasks as well. I used to be quite punitive towards myself and very cruel, like, why can't you just do this? And there was obviously a reason, but having that label or that context was really helpful for me to be able to step into that self-compassion.
Yeah, that's similar for me. Just in the past, attributing all of the mistakes to something being wrong with me and then being able to have a reason for it was so helpful.
Yeah, largely. I ended up making these affirmation decks purely because of that, actually. So yeah, yes.
A pre-diagnosis, do you mean?
Well, technically, yes. Yes, in the right that I was making them for myself, and then post-diagnoses, I made them more formally. Yeah.
So what were some of the affirmations?
I can grab them out if that would help, but I don't know if you've got time for me to Zoom in 2 minutes or not.
Maybe after the break.
Yes, let's do that.
That sounds really interesting. And in terms of the challenges that you have now, you mentioned task initiation can be an issue. Is that mainly with admin tasks or things that you don't enjoy?
Even things I do enjoy. I have a PDA profile as part of my neurocomplexity, which means for me that even my internal demands or external demands that can be placed on me can shut me down to a point that I can't do them, even if I want to. So if I want something too much, it almost prevents me with an invisible roadblock. So task initiation is still, I think, across the board quite a challenge, but I've employed William Dodson's INCU acronym, interest, novelty, urgency, and competition. It's been really helpful as a strategy to start initiating into tasks or doing things that might be a little bit more difficult to move into.
Yeah, I love that. Those strategies there. Also creativity, trying to make a mundane task really interesting. It helps me a lot.
Yeah, no, creativity is a fantastic outlet. I think a lot of people shame what creativity is or put it into a contained box. Like, oh, it's just art, but creativity can look however it needs to. Like, obviously, in the form of gamification, it's a really good strategy as well. I'm a big proponent of using creativity as an action tool.
And you started getting 90s, so it sounds like you've really been able to lean into some of the strengths that come with your neurotype as well. What other things did you start to notice about yourself?
I am really good in hyperfocus. If I can zone into something, I am unstoppable for the next 7-8 hours. I don't need to take breaks, which is not necessarily healthy, but I can go into full zone mode. I'm also someone that picks up things quite quickly. If I'm talking to someone about a topic that I don't necessarily know, they could give me enough information in a 5-minute discussion for me to grasp the concept quite easily and then apply it across different scenarios. I think that's one of the greatest strengths that I do have, which I try to utilize and capitalize on where I can.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the work projects that you're concentrating on at the moment?
Yes, I definitely can. I'm currently working on project number 3 for my couples retreat. So I work with predominantly autistic ADHDers, and I work with couples. So I do relationship, sex-based kind of therapy, and the retreats I've done 2 so far, but it's really about rebuilding intimacy, kind of reforming connection, post-kids, or just acknowledging, about your neurotypes and communication differences that come up with couples and all of those kinds of things. So we're working towards number 3 now and trying to smush 4 days into 3 because I've tried to shorten it so that it's more budget friendly for individuals to come. But my brain is not great at consolidating because all of the information is necessary. So we'll see how that goes. But that's the project that I'm currently working on. And a secondary online project, which is I want to create this little app where you have different modes for different stages of your task initiation or difficulty with completing tasks. Sometimes I need a voice that's like, just get off your ass. And then sometimes I need a more gentle voice that's just like, you need to do this. Here is a reminder. So I'm currently collaborating with a few people around how to like formalize that into a created, I guess, app.
Yeah, I guess it goes to the idea that not all task activation energies are the same. And sometimes you're saying the voice you need is different depending on the day, right?
100%. And also depending on the spoons that you have, right? Like I find that on lower spoons days, someone's yelling at me, I'm just going to shut down. That's not going to be as helpful. But if I'm being stubborn, someone yelling at me might activate me to actually do the thing. So yeah, it's very context dependent.
Can you say a bit more about how you found that adaptability in the prompts that you need? It took me a while to come to that as well. I was very much yelling at myself all the time to get things done and wondering why I was inconsistent. How did you arrive at that understanding about yourself?
It's going to sound very entitled, but I'm very self-focused. So I think a lot of my whole life has been trying to understand why I am the way that I am. I've been collecting data points my whole life on what I do and why I do it. I clocked it when the PDA piece made more sense for me. I was like, okay, I need more aggression to match my own PDA when that comes up. It was an identification of when am I feeling more gentle and soft? What kind of approach am I taking with other people? Where is the self-critique voice coming in more loudly? And how do I combat against it? A lot of it was just trial and error and seeing what worked. Putting on alarms, if I'm in a mood, I'm going to ignore the alarms. So I actually need something more aggressive towards me to get me to listen. So yeah, trial and error was the biggest part of that.
Yeah, and acknowledging that it changes day to day. That's the hard thing, that a strategy that worked yesterday does not.
Yeah, exactly, 100%, which is also a really annoying thing about our brains. But I think it's also a strength at some point because we are quite adaptable in that way too.
Definitely. Now, when you're not working, what do you enjoy doing in your free time?
So I have my special interest is partially what I do for work. So part of how I maintain a work-life balance is by creating resources for work. Sex, intimacy, relationships, all of that are my special interests. So rather than working with people in my spare time, I'm creating resources for people that are accessible. So that's online, like on Instagram, I make resources, but I also create resources that are hard copy ones and all that kind of stuff. I also love spending time with my cats, Subu and Eos. I do a lot of yoga, writing poetry, and seeing friends as well when I do have the spoons. But more often than not, I become a hermit on the weekends because working as a psych means that I deplete all of my social capacity.
Well, yeah, I can imagine. How many clients would you normally work with each week?
Oh, this week I've worked with 17. I'm learning that under 20 is probably the maximum that I can just because of energy expenditure. But there have been weeks where I'll see like 30 in one week and I'm pulling hair out. And I'm like, who decided to do this? And literally who is me? I am my own admin. I am doing this. Just need to get better with the creating the schedule component. But I blocked out all Fridays until the end of 2025. So hopefully that will be a temporary helpful barrier. Who knows?
I like that. Creating some structure to prevent the over-yesing part of the brain.
Yeah, because ADHD writes checks that autism can't cash or something spot on.
Yep, I can definitely relate.
Yeah.
Do you do a certain type of yoga?
No, I'm pretty chill. Like vinyasa flows are always good. I think yin yoga is the worst for me, but that's just because my brain is like, it's so slow and I have to sit in it and my toes are wriggling and I'm swaying side to side. I can't do this. I need to be moving more. Anything but yin, but I still have done yin a few times. I think I just have to be in a very exhausted post-gym state before I can actually do that.
Yeah, I can relate. How about meditation? Is it similar?
It's very much the same. I don't sit still. So I employ strategies like box breathing. You can draw an outline or do the ones around your fingers, things that require a little movement and attention. I'm a very visually stimmy person. So I'll put on my TV, put up YouTube, and then have like meditation music with the visuals going. And I find that that can be really, really helpful because I am feeling more centered, but I need visual and auditory to keep me in one place.
Is it with the visuals, is it things like a tranquil forest with a river flowing through it, or is it a TV show in the background?
Oh, it can be a little bit of both, but it's more the tranquil music because I do want to center in. If it's just
Mm.
like a TV show, my brain will sometimes latch into it. So I find that would
Mm.
actually distract me a little bit more. But I do like background noise. That's been really helpful. And one of the things as part of my journey that I've learned has been helpful.
And Annelil, you were talking about your 30 clients in a week. I'm really curious about, but being someone that can run to solitude myself, I'm really curious about how you can keep your energy levels up for your Thursday and Friday clients.
That's actually an excellent question because today is Friday. So for me, I put clients that I find are easier to kind of talk to or have maybe less conflict or that are just a lighter load as far as client work goes on those days. And I also, this is a very recent adaptation, take naps throughout the day. And that has been, well, not naps because my brain actually can't switch off, but I close my eyes and then the thoughts go a million miles per hour and at least my body's getting some rest. So I found that those kind of things can help.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people underestimate how good naps are. Even if your brain doesn't switch off, when you close your eyes, your visual system takes up a lot of cognitive load. I find like 18 minutes of just closing my eyes, so it's a great recharge. You also mentioned the different voices for different situations as well. Can you tell us any other productivity strategies that you have?
I definitely can. So, firstly, I would absolutely suggest if you're a hyper focused human, have a water bottle and a snack station anywhere in every room. Make it so accessible because the hardest bit when you're in hyperfocus is we don't want to go to the bathroom. We don't want to do the thing because we're in the mode. The minute that, especially for me with task initiation being the issue, getting back into it is one of the hardest things. So having a water bottle and a snack station right near me has been life changing. And a dietitian actually taught me that, which was phenomenal. The other part, having little snack boxes rather than having to try to come up with a meal. I want to eat something that's whole, but I also don't want to have to grab the fridge and then go and cook something. So those are just food hacks. I don't know, well, probably because I'm hungry. I think that's why my brain went straight to food. Another thing as well, operate with how you operate. I think a lot of the time we hear all of these ADHD, autistic hacks on how can you focus and how can you do these things, but more often than not, they're actually not very helpful, at least for me. If I have a to-do list with time blocks, my brain's going to immediately go, I don't want to do that. And then I'll do my own structure anyway. And then I'm just almost bashing my head against the brick wall. That's my own doing. So I've just learned opt with what works best for you. And I know that sounds very generic, but I go into hyperfocus. I need snacks. I do need humans to remind me to have the food and the snacks as well. And gamifying, make it fun. Anything that's difficult for you to throw yourself into, make it fun. So gamification. If you don't want to do the laundry, okay, cool. How about you throw your laundry from a 5-meter distance and whatever goes in, that's the stuff that you do. Cool. Instantly, it kind of makes it fun. Sometimes it'll miss, and sometimes you might intentionally throw everything not into the basket, but you've at least gotten it closer to the laundry. So there's things like that. And also do it bad. This is something that I learned actually from Deakin University when I was teaching. What they teach their first year psych students is just write it as badly as you can. Not even getting scaffolding, just dot points, say, stop this. And then you write like the crappy bits here. But all of a sudden you've got this scaffold or an outline, and then you've got something to actually work with. That, once again, I think is a big task initiation piece. For me, I think those are the fundamental pieces that I try to go for. And embed your special interest if you can somehow do it. I presume a lot of the people that listen to this pod do have their own special interests with which they're engaged in anyway. So capitalize on that as a strength and find a way to weave it in. I used to do that for all of my uni assignments. Oh, about attachment? Okay, how about I also weave something to do with sexual connection here? How about I also weave something to do with intimacy here? And I just find ways to embed my special interest so that the assignment was actually interesting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned so many great optimization tips in there. You were mentioning ADHD hacks that don't necessarily work for everyone. I think you mentioned time blocking was one of them. Was there anything else that doesn't work for you?
Time blocking, the Pomodoro method, the stopping starting is a nightmare for my brain. I also don't like the idea of consistency and discipline. A big portion of the messages we get from, I don't want to be an asshole, but ADHD coaches and things like that are all about you just need to form a routine. Like part of the difficulty is we can't form a fucking routine. So we need to find different strategies that help. I opt for continuity rather than consistency. I won't be consistent. I will drop off. I've learned I have a 2-week cap when it comes to habit formation. I can get motivated, inspired, and have something go for 2 weeks. And then I'll forget one day or something and it just completely goes. 2 weeks is my cap. So I know to change my routine slightly every 2 weeks to keep some level of novelty or to keep me going. At the end of the day, you don't have to go to the gym 4 times a week. But if you can exercise or do something 4 times a week, even if it's 5 minutes just walking outside of the house or walking on the spot in your house, you can do it anyway. We get to make our rules for our lives. So why not create some flexibility of what that movement looks like? So yeah, continuity. I think the consistency preaching is a little bit tired, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm very curious about the difference there with continuity versus consistency. Is the idea that you want to do movement most days, but consistency would be that you have to do yin yoga every day for the next 12 months versus the continuity approach would be that you'll do some form of movement. It might be boxing one week and then some form of hot yoga the week after that. Is that sort of the approach there?
Yeah, that's
I like that.
absolutely the approach. And a staggered approach too. The ADHD dominant side of our brains are going to be like, oh, hyperfixation, new routine. How awesome. And then, I've gone on I'm going to be so healthy this time. I'd buy all the health ingredients, all the supplements, all the gym gear. And then it sits in a box and doesn't get touched after the hyperfixation period's done for. So it's like, okay, I've got all of these things and these tools. How about I start slow, which is 1 day a week, and then add it up until I get to that level where I feel comfortable. So for me at the moment, it's 3 or 4 times a week with movement, and it can look however I want and wherever I want, because movement obviously can be done anywhere. The minute that I apply it to the gym only, well, there goes me paying my gym membership for 3 months where I'm actually not going to go at all because my brain decided that I don't want to go to the gym despite wanting to go to the gym. So yeah, work with our brains rather than against them.
I like that. Do you have any other tips in terms of managing the PDA profile?
Yeah. Flexible structure is the first one. I want to move 4 days a week. I get to pick what 4 days that is. It doesn't have to be on a certain day. If I feel like adding an extra day, awesome, cool. So flexible structure, having choice as well is a really important thing. So generally the choice is harder if it's intrinsically motivated, but I'll go, okay, well, I don't want to cook tonight. I want to get takeout, but I've said that I wanted to eat a vegetable to make up for my nutritional needs for the rest of the week because I don't eat vegetables. But I need to, if I'm going to get takeout, it has to have at least one vegetable that's not a potato in it. And so then I'll justify it in that way. So having like choices of, okay, well, either I have to cook myself a meal or I can get takeout, but I have to like balance it. So providing yourself with choice can be helpful. Also, I've found that when other people are willing to help there, I step into this, oh, well, I'm doing it for someone else, not for me. So if someone else asks, like, oh, I really need some help motivating me to go for a walk, all of a sudden I'm like, me, the person who hasn't wanted to go for walks for 5 years, okay, I'm on board. How can I help you? Utilization of that is sort of also like a body doubling strategy too. I find those kind of things can be really helpful.
Do you do that at work as well in terms of using humans to help do hard things?
I work for myself, which is a dilemma and a good thing simultaneously. But I do work in a clinic of people. So one of the midwives in the clinic, because I work at a midwife previously owned clinic, she is constantly talking about how she's hungry and doesn't want to like go out. She wants to have takeout. I'm like, okay, well, how about we go for a walk? We can get some together, but we've at least done some movement, gotten some sunshine. So I use that, and I use her toilet breaks as a reminder for me to have toilet breaks too. She pees all the time because she's pregnant. So I'm like, I should probably go now too.
Nice. I'm looking at some of the notes that we've taken here. There's so many strategies here. Wanted to dig into all of them. We spoke about many of them, but I wonder about alarms. How do you use alarms?
Every single day. I had, and probably unnecessary amounts to the point that they really don't need to go off. So I have alarms 5 minutes before a client session so that I can sit down and make sure I'm at my desk, and I'll turn it off as it goes and I'll get distracted. I'm like, no, for client time. What are you doing? Alarms to eat, alarms to go to the bathroom, alarms to drink water. Whether or not I actually listen to them is another question. Alarms for things like today, alarms for pretty much anything that I'm doing, because I refuse to write anything in my digital calendar. I have a hard copy kind of, I think they're called daily orders calendar, and they're phenomenal because you get neon colored textures on a blackboard, which I personally love. So I'd rather do that than digital calendars. Alarms sort of make up for that as well. But yeah, they are a staple in my routine. Yeah.
Do you set them the night before?
So night before, and then I set them in the morning, depending on what clients I have for the day as well. I also use alarms in my sessions as a reminder of, hey, you're now out of time. I can't keep time, and I hate the sound of a clock ticking in my room and also looking at it. It's a distraction. So I'd rather have my phone subtly nudge my clients into leaving the room. Like, it's not me, it's the alarm. You can't be mad.
Does it play a song?
Yeah, it's really annoying. It's like my wake up alarm. So at this point, I've had to change it several times because I keep getting triggered by it. But I've learned that you can put Spotify playlists on through it. I haven't done it yet, but I think I'd like to implement that next.
Just don't do the Jocko Willink, the wake up, it's 4 a.m, you need to get up and do your sit-ups.
Oh, gosh.
That actually used to be my wake up ringtone for a while. Not to wake up and do the sit-ups. It was the one where he was talking about good. It's like, lost your job, good. Didn't get funded, good.
That's actually not bad, because I feel like the voice and the tone could really set you up a peppy start for your day.
Yeah.
Probably depends on what type of sleep you had.
That's actually very true. Just waking up like, no, I'm going to snooze you, and now I'm going to feel even worse that I'm not doing sit-ups.
Awesome. Well, we've got so many ideas there that I need to have a break to process them.
Sounds good.
Hi there, Focus and Chillers. Are you ready to supercharge your knowledge in the realms of creativity, tech, and psychology? Come check out my fortnightly newsletter. In each edition, you'll get quick wins and actionable takeaways that you can put into practice right away. If this sounds like you, I'd love to have you as a reader. Subscribe for your fortnightly dose of insights. The link is in the show notes. And now, let's get back to the show.
All right, we're back, and Annelil has got the affirmation cards as well. We're keen to hear some of those.
Yes. Oh, I also wrote them with my left hand, so it looks like a child did it, but that's intentional because they're inner child patients, the neurodivergents. So that one is like, I will get through difficult times. Another one, I am driven. I am accomplishing my goals. That one's a bit hard to see because it's in yellow. Casing myself helps my healing because, I think a lot of us go 0 to 100 and depending on that kind of thing. When I am authentic, I'm being authentic.
Your left handwriting is much better than even my right handwriting.
Yeah, the pictures too. Were the pictures with your left hand as well?
Absolutely not. They would not be good pictures if that was the case.
I was going to say, very good control with your non-dominant hands.
No, those ones had to be. Yeah, I could set boundaries. I choose my new narrative. I'm allowed to honor my body's needs. My neurokin offers safety when the world is unkind. I'm empowered by making my own choices. My ability to see good in others is magical. So there's about 46 affirmation cards, but I wrote all of these in my self-discovery journey prior to more formalized diagnoses. And that was something I used to do as part of my morning routines, where I would write down affirmations and say them out loud 3 times. I found it was really comforting to do that for myself and just really starting to step into that space of self-healing or self-compassion, self-understanding.
I love them. You mentioned that it's possible to purchase them.
Yes, you can purchase them on my website, which maybe I talk about after. But
Yeah.
And they're not too expensive either. They're $35, and I get them printed from an Aussie-run company. So yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Can you say a bit more about your morning routine, what it looks like and how it's evolved over time?
Yes, I definitely can. At the moment, because I'm doing well, it's extensive, but it varies. So I usually opt for a low spoons, medium spoons, high spoons based kind of structure. But usually the mornings, that includes a little bit of movement if it's a movement-based day. So waking up, making my bed, taking my meds, feeding my cats, cleaning their litter. Then it's getting dressed for the day, driving to work, and setting up. So I have my coffee and then set up my desk and get prepared in that way. I'm always an hour early to work so that I have extra time to just do whatever I do in that hour. I genuinely don't know how I spend that time. It's odd. But I also journal, I do gratitude, So I write the things that I'm grateful for the day, and I do my affirmations as well. So I try to make 3 unique affirmations that I can say to myself a few times over. And journaling's like summarizing over the last day or so with what's happened. I'm pretty, and skincare, shower, like all those kinds of things. So that's the extensive, very long one. I started doing more of those things about 4 years ago when I started dipping into spirituality and leaning into that a little bit. Prior to that, a lot of it was still journaling, writing down things, and also reading or listening to podcasts. So I think the iteration has been things fall off when I'm really exhausted or if I'm going through a depressive episode, which I do experience sometimes. The main core things are the gratitude, affirmations, and journaling. Movement's a lot harder for me to do if I'm low spoons, but I have been trying to create little scaffolds and supports for myself to be able to get it done where I can.
With the journaling, do you mix it up as well, or is it something that you normally are pretty comfortable to do, free flow journaling?
Yeah, I'm a free flow journaler. So I think I mentioned before, I'm very much a writer. So words can come quite naturally. If I'm feeling in the mood as well, maybe I write a poem, but that's more mood based.
Also, that 1 hour, that mystery 1 hour that you have before work, have you always been willing to give yourself that buffer, or is that something that you've had to cultivate? Because I know with myself, like I used to try to account for every half hour block kind of thing, but these days I've relaxed things a little bit. How's it cultivated for you?
Well, similar to you, used to like dot, 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 dot. This is what I need to do. 6 a.m. wake up. And then I found that I couldn't sustain it because it was quite overwhelming. So for me, yes, I use that hour, but that's always kind of been how I operate. I think that's where the autism meets ADHD, where I essentially over account for time because I assume things will take way longer. And I know how, when I'm not looking at time, how quickly it goes. So if I get to work an hour early, I'm not going to be late for work. And then I can do all these things that more often than not, like I'm filling the time. So clearly I'm doing something, but it gives me the extra wriggle room to kind of, I can be scrolling on my phone. I can do my morning routine at work, set up, and then I have a little bit more of that comfortable sense of not feeling rushed. But it gives me a huge gap of time. It's like arriving to parties early. I'm one of those people. Arriving to job meetings or train stations early. I'm like, yes, but what if the train comes within the half hour that it takes me to get here, even though it comes in an hour and it hasn't changed and it's time? Anything could happen. And it's the same thing every day. So I think it's a protective ADHD combo that naturally just comes up.
It sounds like a very adaptive strategy. I tend to have so much time optimism that even though I always think that I should leave a half an hour buffer, I almost always exhaust the buffer before I get to the location, except for flights because I've missed them. So I arrive 2 hours early for flights.
Oh, that sounds like my partner, actually. He's ADHD as well and can make flights. Anything else? Nope. So we just go separately to events. I'm like, I have lateness anxiety. Absolutely not. We have to work within what we can.
Yeah.
But I can be late too. So I don't know. I think that's the contradiction of things and the rules about things, right? If someone says it starts at 7 p.m., people should start coming from 7. I'm like, 7 p.m., I'll be there at 6:50. No worries. See you there. But if it's like people are probably going to come around 10, I'm like, okay, cool. And then I make it at midnight. So I think it's just more what are the strict rules around the time? And also if I'm distracted on my phone is a very hard block to pass through.
Midnight. That leads into the next question around sleep.
Excellent.
What time do you normally go to bed?
Oh, God. Yeah. So my sleep schedule is not great. I vary a lot, but at the moment, because I'm trying to stick to a routine, 11:30 p.m. midnight is roughly when I'm going to bed. I've never been someone that sleeps very well, though. Like 60 to 80% of ADHD have sleep disorders. I definitely would say that I would meet criteria for one. Which one? Who knows? But I don't really need that much sleep to be optimal in the mornings. I wake up like 6:30, so it's like that component. And then I'm restless throughout the night, lots of vivid dreams, like lots of waking up throughout the night. I find it quite hard to switch off, generally speaking. But I've learnt that antihistamines have been life-saving for my sleep. And this was something that I had actually journaled and documented because I needed to track the data to go, is it actually the antihistamines? It was. Where neurodivergents actually have a lot of overlap with like postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos, hypermobility, and mast cell activation syndrome. And, fun fact, I have all three. I've taken antihistamines to help with inflammation. And since then, my brain has been able to sleep. We have histamine dumps during our sleep cycles as well. And histamine can make us more awake because when we're inflamed, our body's going, hey, 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 wake up. There's lots of histamine regulators within our bodies, especially for neurodivergents that aren't really doing the things that they have to. I found that hack. That is not me saying to anyone that is listening to take them, please consult your doctor before making any decisions. But that has been life-saving for me. I think most of us just can't switch off more often than not, or struggle to get to sleep or stay asleep or wake up early or have the circadian rhythm where they're waking up at like 10 a.m. at the earliest because their brain just won't let them wake up any earlier.
We've heard that from a lot of guests. It's really interesting about the mast cell activation issue. I probably should look into that because I have dust mite allergies and I often wake up with issues around not breathing properly. So thank you for sharing that.
I will send you links. It's a new interest in the neurodivergent space of research that I've deep dived down, and it's fascinating.
Awesome. Look forward to an info dump. So if people want to connect with you, find your affirmation cards or go to your retreats, where's the best place for them to find you online?
So I've got 2 business websites because as a psychologist, you technically can't do things like Reiki and retreats. So I've just decided to PDA it and make 2 businesses. For my work as a psychologist, you can find me at Neuro Connections. So NeuroKinnection. That's also my Instagram and Facebook. And then for couples retreats, Reiki, and sometimes some other resources, it's NK Intimacy Alchemy.com.au.
Awesome.
Annelil, it's been wonderful having you on. Do you have any final words or ask for our audience?
Figure it out what you need before you consult and spend money on people, even psychologists and alternative therapies, anything like that. Genuinely write down where are the things and the areas that you need support on. What are your strengths? And, like one of those SWOT kind of diagrams, do that for yourself first because it's actually really, really helpful at getting a picture of you and what you'll need for support from those people when you fundamentally get that extra hand if you get it. You know yourself best. If an idea you've tried isn't, working for you despite people saying, oh, it's great for everyone with your neurotype, don't listen. You know yourself best. And one of the biggest things that we do as neurodivergents, because of how we've been treated most of our lives, is we gaslight ourselves when our intuition and our insights about ourselves are often than not actually correct. We need to actually relearn that process. So listen to yourself. Take that with a grain of salt, though, because yes, sometimes other people do have good strategies and a lot of us are stubborn and don't want to listen to feedback. But, so take a bit of a combination of both of those. But thank you both for having me. It's been really fun to info dump and chat and hear both of your experiences too in between a little bit. So thanks.
Thanks so much for being a guest. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Focus and Chill podcast. To listen to other episodes, jump onto podcast.focusbear.io. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or you know someone who'd be a good fit, email us at team@focusbear.io. Otherwise, stay focused, stay chilled, and peace out.